The distributive property. The goal of this tutorial is to be able to simplify expressions like the ones you see on the screen using the distributive property. So this tutorial will be broken down into two parts. Part one, we're just going to look at applying the distributive property to these expressions, which is what students generally have to do in class. At the second part, I want to show you how the distributive property is true for arithmetic. Hopefully that will give you a more of an intuitive acceptance of the distributive property. Alright, this tutorial can be found on our website, mathwarehouse.com/distributive, where there's a free worksheet with an answer key, as well as many other practice problems and an interactive quiz that you can take. Okay, the distributive property. And we're going to focus, by the way, on the distributive property of multiplication over addition. Right? We have a term on the outside, and we are going to multiply it by an expression that has addition in it, right? X plus 2. So the distributive property simply states that you can rewrite the left side as 3 times x plus 3 times 2. And usually people indicate that you're distributing by drawing these arrows here. All that it means is the product of one expression and a expression involving a sum, x plus 2, can be rewritten as the product of their sums. In other words, 3 times x plus 2 is the same as 3 times x plus 3 times 2. And if you want to simplify it, right, you could write it as 3x plus 6. The distributive property itself is only this first line here, where we distribute the multiplication over the addition. Right, so let's apply the distributive property to this expression, right? So we distribute the 4 to the 3x, so it becomes 4 times 3x, and the 4 to the 5. Again, this here is the distributive property. The next step is we're simply simplifying. Right, so distribute it on the top line. You can distribute over as many terms as you want, right? So here there's 3 terms, 3x plus y plus z, and we're going to distribute the 5 to all of them. So it will become 5 times 3x plus 5 times y plus 5 times z. And if you want, you can simplify it, 15x plus 5y plus 5z. And you can, let's do one more algebraic one. You can do something more complicated like 5x squared times 2x plus 7. Right, so you can distribute anything. And we distribute this entire expression on the outside. Right, so it becomes the distributive property. It lets us rewrite it as 5x squared times 2x plus 5x squared times z. Yeah. So if you want, you can simplify it to 10x cubed plus 35x squared. But remember that the distributive property itself is only that first line. Okay, that concludes the first part of practicing applying the distributive property. But I wanted to show you how the distributive property works for just pure numbers in arithmetic. Maybe you didn't accept the distributive property, and you don't believe me that distributive property is just some farce that mathematicians made up. But you can see that the distributive property works out for just normal numbers, and maybe you'll have more of an acceptance of it, of the property itself, after looking at a few problems using just numbers. So we know that 5 times x is 30. So however, we can also rewrite 6 as 4 plus 2, right? So the difference between the top here and the second line is just how we wrote it. So we know that whatever the bottom is, we should get 30. You can actually apply the distributive property here, and you'll see that it works. And gives us 30. 5 times 4 plus 5 times 2. That's how we would distribute it, right? According to how we did the prior page's problems. And this simply becomes 20 plus 10, or 30. Right? So the distributive property holds for numbers. You can do the same thing for 3 times 12, which we know is 36. We could rewrite 12 has 3 times 5 plus 3 plus 4. And again, let's do this using our distributive property and see if we also get 36. All right, the distributive property says we can rewrite it as 3 times 5 plus 3 times 3 plus 3 times 4, or 15 plus 9 plus 12. And you got it. 15 plus 9 plus 12 equals 36. So the only point of showing you the distributive property with numbers, was so that you see it really does work. You can use numbers that are easy to calculate. 5 times 6 is 30. And you can break up 6 into terms and apply the distributive property and see that when you simplify it, you do indeed get what you, I'm sure, know, which is the same answer. 5 times 6 is 30. Alright, if you'd like more practice problems, visit mathwarehouse.com/distributive. There's a 23 question worksheet with answer key, as well as interactive problems and quizzes. Thank you.